When you hear the words data centers, what emotions come up for you? Maybe there's negative ones, maybe images associated with people yelling at a city council. Maybe there's positive ones, and you think it's pretty cool that we're on the dawn of a new age and we have these big buildings full of servers. But one thing that I find really interesting is a case here in Utah. So I don't know if you've heard about the massive 44,000 acre data center called Stratos that they've been trying to place out here next to Great Salt Lake, but it's got huge amounts of backlash. At the same time, there's a city called Eagle Mountain that's just a few miles to the south of where this thing would be. And they've had data centers humming for years without really any public outcry. So how's that happen? I was curious, and with my colleagues, I got to interview the city's legislative affairs director. His name's Evan Barrett. And he tells us that 10 years ago, city leaders started to look into data centers before they were big and trendy. And they said that they found some huge benefits, including massive amounts of property tax revenue that could bring down the taxes that everyone else pays. However, there's real concerns around these things: water use, energy consumption, public input, or the lack thereof. So my colleague asked Barrett about those things too. And he says this quote, he said, "We're happy to welcome you here, but you have to do it on our terms," meaning the city was placing limits, and if the data centers wanted to be there, they had to obey those limits. And so far, it seems to be working. For years, Meta and other companies have placed data centers in the area that have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into the community without being asked, and implementing closed-loop cooling systems that lower amount of water use, to the point that apparently one only uses the amount of water of a movie theater, which I found crazy. But most importantly, Barrett says leaders have been engaging and informing the public this whole time. So it's been a slow trickle that the public's been able to follow rather than this massive thing that came out of nowhere. So this doesn't mean that data centers are perfect. I just found it interesting that one city in Utah has found a way to make data centers work for them and their residents. And it adds a lot of nuance to a conversation that so far has been pretty one-sided. So what about you? What would it take for you to be okay with the data center coming into your community, if anything? Let me know.